Hey guys, and welcome back to another compilation style video. Today's subject is going to be every time Shohei Ohtani did something that was completely unprecedented in MLB history in 2025. Now, keep in mind this is not an exhaustive list of all of his feats, instead being all of the videos I personally made on his record-setting accomplishments, meaning there will be a number of stats I didn't manage to catalog, but rest assured I tried to get all the major ones. With this in mind, thanks for stopping in, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. In the last week, I made a video about how Shohei Ohtani threw his fastest recorded major league pitch at 101.7 miles per hour, which I'm pretty sure was an unexpected development, given the fact that it was only his third appearance coming off his second career Tommy John surgery. And while this definitely has been the dominant storyline over the last month or so, as it is, of course, once again, one of the most unique things we've seen on an MLB field, something else that's emerging as a dominant storyline is the fact that he's trending towards his fourth ever MVP. Because of what he's accomplishing at the plate, including National League leading totals in home runs, slugging percentage, OPS, OPS plus, and runs. And he just added on to each one of these totals yesterday when he blasted a home run versus the White Sox. But this wasn't any old round tripper. In fact, it was, by definition, unlike any we've ever recorded before. The Dodgers were already out to a 5-1 lead in this one versus righty Shane Smith, who had given up 4 runs in the first inning alone, when Ohtani came to the plate in the 4th inning, working the count full before getting a breaking ball inside, crushing it high, and I do mean high, in the air to right field on what ended up being a no-doubter. Now, on the surface, this probably looked moderately impressive, as it hung in the air for approximately 7 seconds before it actually landed in the stands. But it perhaps wasn't clear how unique this home run was just from the eye test. You see, this moonscraper from Shohei left his bat at an impressive 116.3 miles per hour at a launch angle of 42 degrees. That might not sound like anything too spectacular until you realize we have never seen a major league home run hit over 116 miles per hour at an angle above 35, let alone 40, let alone 42. In fact, we've never seen one hit that high at 115 miles an hour. This makes this a purely singular feat of strength, as the ability to impart that much exit velocity on a ball hit at that angle is just completely unprecedented. Now, I know I'm going to get a decent amount of people commenting that this isn't even worthy of a video, but I also want you to consider what a 42-degree home run usually looks like. As you can see here on this Juan Soto blast back in 2019 that traveled 366 feet at 104.7 miles an hour, both of which are around the average for balls hit out at an angle this high. Ohtani's blast, meanwhile, traveled 408 feet on top of the other peripherals, which would also make it a nearly top 10 farthest hit home run at a launch angle over 42. I will acknowledge that this is a bit nerdy, but I didn't want to ignore how impressive this was, being a feat of raw power that maybe only 5 other guys in the whole sport right now could approach today. As for the rest of the game, the Dodgers would manage to close this one out 6-1 over the White Sox, with very little happening in the way of notable plays following Shohei's Herculean blast. Now, I could do a whole intro on Shohei and the various things he's accomplished, all the way from the record-setting stuff down to the more granular, but you know what, if you clicked on this video, you already know who this modern legend is, so let's not waste any time doing some big ramp-up. Now, I want to look at 2 plays today the Japanese Unicorn managed to post in the first 2 games of his series in Pittsburgh, both of which the Dodgers lost, by the way. Starting with a home run in the first contest. Facing the recently called-up phenom Bubba Chandler, Ohtani took the first 2 pitches of his at-bat for balls before cutting through a 99-mile-per-hour heater up for strike 1. The lefty then took another changeup before on the 3-1, getting another 99-mile-per-hour pitch. Only this time, he didn't miss it, crushing an absolute laser beam into the stands in right field, a shot that looks like it floored the rookie pitcher. And for good reason. The exit velocity on this ball was a career-high 120 miles per hour on the dot. Absolutely crazy. But there have been harder home runs, including from the Pirates' own O'Neal Cruz, who launched a dinger out this year at a record-setting 122.9. So, what makes this dinger special, besides the obvious metrics? Well, 2 things. One of which was pointed out on Twitter by David Adler, being that it was the hardest hit home run off a 99-mile-per-hour plus pitch in the StatCast era, by 4.5 miles an hour over an Aaron Judge blast earlier this year. Yet, somehow I think this next screenshot is even more impressive, being that this was the only 120-mile-per-hour plus home run we've ever seen hit on a pitch over 95 miles per hour. That's right, the next closest is Ronald Acuna Jr. at 94.5, with 4 of the 6 ever hit being under 93. To have the kind of bat speed to be able to catch up with 99 in and hit it that ridiculously hard is flat out unprecedented, at least until he did it. The second play came a game later when he was facing southpaw Evan Sisk, fouling off the sidearmer's first pitch sweeper and then taking a sinker low and away. He would then get another of this pitch type on the 1-1, with this one boring well high and inside, yet somehow Ohtani managed to make contact with it, dribbling a little grounder to third baseman Cam Devaney, who couldn't manage to nab him at first. This base hit was later confirmed by Sarah Langs to be the farthest pitch in that a lefty has ever gotten a non-bunt base hit on since we started tracking these things back in 2008. Either of these feats would have been extremely impressive, but both in the span of 2 games? That's just nuts, and is another reminder of the kind of talent we're getting a chance to witness on a day-to-day basis. Shohei Ohtani established the 50-50 club last season en route to winning the first ever MVP for a DH-only player, as he recovered from Tommy John surgery, and he's been about as good in 2025, being on track for his 3rd straight 600 slug, 1000 OPS campaign. But something else that's given his MVP case this year even more legitimacy is what he's managed to do on the mound, throwing over 40 innings at this point with some really good numbers. All of this culminated in him creating a new 50-50 club entirely yesterday, while simultaneously having to watch as one of the best individual performances of his career went to waste at the hands of another bullpen blow-up from the Dodgers. Ohtani was getting the start versus a Phillies club that had just clinched their division the night before, but early on you wouldn't be able to tell if this was an elite team at the plate, as the righty struck out 3 batters through the first 2 frames with some truly nasty breaking stuff, even managing to mix a single to lead off the game in there as well, though he would be stranded. In the bottom of the second, LA managed to give him a little support, with Alex Call and Kike Hernandez crushing home runs off the Phillies' current ace Christopher Sanchez. The Japanese superstar would then hop right back on the mound and spin 2 more scoreless frames, with 0 traffic, including punching out Bryce Harper on a nasty curveball. This was followed by a 4th Dodger run, with Hernandez again coming through on a sacrifice fly. Shohei would then go 1-2-3 one more time, while getting some help from Call in left field, as he made this racing catch into the wall, that officially completed 5 no-hit, 1-walk innings for the righty with 5 Ks. Arguably his best performance of the season with his arm, but like we've gotten used to seeing in the second half, the Blue Boys bullpen would nearly immediately crap the bed, as following losing the combined no-no on a 1-out single, they would blow the lead entirely after a Bryce Harper double with the bases loaded, then Brandon Marsh 3-run home run. Before the 6th was over, Max Kepler would go deep as well, cementing a truly nightmarish, if not unfamiliar frame. The next 2.5 innings would go off without much action, though Kike did manage to add to his highlight reel with an excellent pick at 3rd base. This brings us to the bottom of the 8th, when Ohtani led off with a 430-foot, 113-mile-per-hour blast to right field, which actually established a new 50-50 club entirely, as pointed out by Sarah Langs on Twitter, as there has never been another player who's managed to hit 50 home runs in the same season that he struck out 50 batters. This narrowed his team's deficit to 1, and they would manage to tie things up later when Alex Call, who also had a big night overall, lifted a game-tying sacrifice fly to left field. This meant they'd probably be able to get Ohtani one more at-bat with a chance to walk it off, right? Well, no, because Blake Trinan would come out and, after retiring the first 2 batters, gave up a double, intentional walk, and then 3-run home run to Rafael Marchand, a guy who entered the game with just 1 long ball on the year and 109 at-bats. And that was it. Shohei would get 1 final plate appearance, but it came with 2 outs and nobody on, basically rendering it moot, as LA went on to lose a game at the hands of their bullpen for the 34th time this year. And with this came some more history that I'm pretty sure they wanted to avoid like the plague, with OptaStats pointing out that Ohtani became the only player in the modern era to throw at least 5 no-hit innings, homer himself, and then still have his team lose the game. That's perhaps the ultimate tungsten arm O'Doyle, and it helped keep the division nail-bitingly close in the West as we come to the season's final days. It feels like every week in the regular season there was a new thing that Shohei Ohtani did that had never been done before, and I did my best to cover it in 2025. Yet, because there's still baseball being played, with his Dodgers predictably in the postseason, his at-bats have not concluded yet, which allowed him yesterday to register yet another feat that we've never seen before. Not just in the playoffs, mind you, but period. Ohtani was leading off the bottom of the first with the Reds' ace on the mound, Hunter Green, a hard thrower who began his day with a 101-mile-per-hour fastball inside, then followed this with a spiked slider at 91. On the 2-0, he would locate another heater at the bottom rail. It was then on the 2-1 that the Japanese unicorn would get a 100.4 mile-per-hour fastball in the inner half, and proceed to crush an absolute laser to right field, one of the lowest line drive no-doubters you'll ever see. Of course, from the naked eye it seemed impressive, but it wasn't until shortly after, when StatCast revealed how hard it was hit, that it became historic, as the lefty had managed to label this one at 117.4 miles per hour, making it the hardest hit pitch we've ever seen off a 100-mile-per-hour plus fastball. But here's the thing, it wasn't even close. We've never seen one over 115. The guy whose record he broke, Rafael Devers, had managed to launch a Garrett Cole pitch to right field at Fenway at 113.7, exactly 4 miles an hour slower than Shohei. And if you want to take the postseason into consideration, the next closest would be Nick Castellanos off of Spencer Strider at 112.4, over 5 miles an hour less. But if you thought he was satisfied at one atomic blast, you'd have been mistaken, as after his team would get out to a 6-0 lead, he would come up in the bottom of the 6th with a guy on, and proceed to blast a middle cut sweeper 454 feet to right center field, a shot further than any home run hit during all of last postseason. And both of these dingers ended up being relatively important when it was all said and done, as the notorious Dodgers bullpen would make things interesting in the 8th by allowing the Reds to get within 5, with the bases still loaded and 1 out. But lefty Jack Dreyer would indeed manage to come through when it mattered most, punching out Tyler Stevenson after an exceptionally long at-bat before getting Ke'Bryan Hayes to pop up to first base. From here, Blake Treinen managed to retire Cincinnati in the 9th without giving up another run, ending the night on a ground ball to Max Muncy, putting LA just 1 win away from heading back to the division series. I mean, what do I even say? How do I even give an intro for what the hell just happened last night in the Dodgers' clinching win versus the Brewers? Shohei Ohtani had arguably, and I don't even think it's necessarily all that arguable, the best game in baseball history by any player. You heard me right. The best game by any player. It was so good, in fact, I can't even list all the records it broke in this video because there's so many I could just spend the whole thing reciting them. Instead, I'd rather just get into it and try to document the mind-numbing greatness front to back. It was not a slow start either. The dude literally came out in the top of the 1st and struck out the side after a leadoff walk, throwing 2 triple-digit heaters and a ridiculous sweeper before hopping into the batter's box and immediately launching, and I do mean launching, a home run to right field. A blast that went 446 feet and left his bat at 116.5 miles per hour. This already would have been a great day for most players, and it was just the first inning. LA would later add on when Tommy Edman singled into center field and Teoscar Hernandez grounded out to first base, getting Milwaukee down in a 3-0 hole in a game they absolutely had to have. And Ohtani would make sure it would stand up by retiring the Brew Crew in order in the 2nd, and then after a leadoff walk to Blake Perkins in the 3rd, struck out Joey Ortiz and managed to get Bryce Terang to line out to left field, which somehow also featured Kike Hernandez being able to throw behind the runner Perkins to nab him on one of the stranger looking double plays you'll ever see. A scoreless 4th that featured Shohei stranding a leadoff double with back-to-back strikeouts was followed by his 3rd plate appearance of the night, sandwiched around a walk, this time versus righty Chad Patrick, and on a 3-1. The all-time great proceeded to crush a cutter low and inside off the plate a bit, 469 feet to right field, literally almost out of the entire stadium at 116.9 miles per hour. Per Sarah Lang, this was already the first game in MLB history where a player had hit 2 116-mile-per-hour home runs in the same contest, and we were only about halfway through it. 2 more strikeouts in the 5th were followed by 2 more strikeouts in the 6th, helping him to seal 6 scoreless frames with just 2 hits allowed and 10 strikeouts. He would depart in the top of the 7th after walking Christian Yelich and giving up a single to William Contreras, but none of those runs would come back on him after Alex Vesia managed to perform a high wire act perfectly, getting a pop-up and ground ball double play to get out of it. And it was in the bottom of that frame things would go from downright ridiculous to absolutely, positively ludicrous when he launched his 3rd home run of the day, 427 feet to center field at 113.6 miles per hour. You could probably guess this, but this is the first time we've ever seen a player have 3 home runs with an exit velocity of at least 110 miles per hour traveling at least 400 feet. Remember, his shortest was 427. Milwaukee managed to scratch 1 across in the 8th on a double play ball that Bryce Terang beat out, but this was the sum of their offense, which honestly was almost as historically bad as the Dodgers' pitching was good in this series. 3 outs later in the 9th, and Andy Pajes was catching the final out in right field, securing LA's 2nd straight ticket to the World Series, with all of the momentum in the world going into it, coming off of what probably was the best individual performance by a major league player we've ever seen. Period. The intro to this video reminds me a little bit of the Shohei vid I did about a week ago, which, by the way, he's a central character in this one too, where I basically was just flabbergasted by the insane nature of what I had just witnessed. And that certainly applies here too. I mean, 18 innings of World Series baseball that broke more records than I could possibly list, while ending in perhaps the most epic way possible. Buckle up as we work our way there in what will be a long, and I do mean long, winding journey. Things began with a little history to start the night, as after Tyler Glasnow retired the side in order, Max Scherzer became the 2nd player in MLB history to play in a World Series game with 4 different teams, and he showed why in that very frame, as after giving up a leadoff double to Ohtani, a hit that would actually end up being pretty important statistically in this one, he worked out of this mini jam without letting the Japanese lefty even move up a base, striking out Will Smith to end the frame. This brings us to our first real weird moment of the night, when, leading off the 2nd, Bo Bichette lined a single into center field, putting himself on base for Dalton Varsho, who, on a 3-1, took a fastball well above the zone. But Due to a late call from home plate umpire Mark Wegner, both Dalton and Bo became confused, believing that the hitter had actually walked. This allowed Glasnow, after a second of confusion himself, to flip over to first base to pick off Bichette. I think we can say here pretty decidedly that Wegner should have been quicker with that call and probably never should have made it in the first place. But Bo also shouldn't have taken his eye off the ball in the way that he did, with the same being true for the Jays' first base coach as well. This would prove to be pretty big, as despite the Blue Jays managing to get a walk and single following, they couldn't score after Addison Barger struck out and Ernie Clement lined out. And the Dodgers would capitalize on this missed opportunity, wrestling momentum into their corner with a no-doubt blast off the bat of Teoscar Hernandez, a 1-0 lead that would double one frame later when Shohei Ohtani hit his 7th home run of the postseason, a line drive missile down the right field line. Things could have been even worse for Toronto, who, with 2 outs, watched Will Smith line a one-hopper to right field, a play that would, fortunately for them, see Freddie Freeman get thrown out handedly at the plate on a near 100-mile-per-hour toss from Addison Barger. Now it was Toronto's turn to build some momentum, getting a leadoff walk, then an error from Tommy Edman to put 2 guys on, bringing Alejandro Kirk to the dish, and on the first pitch of his AB, he delivered, smacking his 5th home run of the postseason just over the wall in left center. Their lead would double just a few batters later when Andres Gimenez launched a sacrifice fly to center field. But if you thought things were anywhere close to being over, here's a hint. We weren't even 1/3 of the way through this one at this point, with the yo-yo then moving in LA's direction in the bottom of the 5th, when Ohtani registered his 3rd extra base hit of the night off of Mason Fluharty, a double to the gap in left center that scored Kike Hernandez from first base. After Mookie Betts was retired, it was Freddie Freeman's turn to come through, lining a single past the outstretched glove of Guerrero Jr., nodding things back up. Things would then stay relatively quiet until the top of the 7th, when George Springer left the contest after some uncomfortability on a foul ball. Then with 2 outs, Vladdy flipped a single into center field, setting things up for Bo Bichette to line a fastball down the right field line, a play that would normally result in a 1st and 3rd situation. But the big base runner wasn't satisfied with not scoring, racing all the way around from first on a single to score the go-ahead run. Would this be the straw that broke the Dodgers' back? Well, to put it simply, no, not at all. Courtesy of their MVP unicorn, who came to the plate with 1 out in the bottom of that frame and got a fastball at 98 right down the middle, crushing it out to left center field for his 4th extra base hit in the game, making him the first player to have 3 multi-homer games in one postseason, as well as tying him for the most extra base hits in a World Series game, with the dude who played almost 120 years ago. Once again, we were square. This is where the bullpen wars would really start, and oh boy would they be something to behold, with the first pressure-packed situation worked out of being from Roki Sasaki, who managed to barely secure this ground ball back to the mound in the 8th before flipping low to Freddie Freeman, who made the soft pick for the out. Then in the 9th, with Roki still on the hill, Varsho lined a ball off the glove of Freddie, sending Tommy Edman, who had made that error earlier in the game, sliding into the outfield grass before making a perfect one-hop throw to third base, nabbing Isaiah Kiner-Falefa trying to advance. Shohei would then reach for his 5th consecutive at-bat with an intentional walk in the bottom of the 9th, a bold strategy, but one that would pay off just 1 pitch later when he was thrown out attempting to steal second because his foot came off the bag, a play that certainly frustrated his own manager. Toronto would then see their 2nd runner in as many innings gunned out on the bases in the top of the 10th, when Davis Schneider was thrown out on another perfect relay throw from Edman, this time on a double to the right field corner. Jeff Hoffman would work his own 2nd consecutive scoreless frame in the 10th, this time allowing 2 guys to get on, but not advance past that. Then it was Derek Fisher's turn to do the same in the 11th, sending us into one of our most pressure-packed innings of the entire night, the top of the 12th, when with 2 outs and 2 guys on, Max Muncy first attempted to make this incredibly high IQ play at third base, one that wouldn't end up working out when it was overturned upon review. This brought Hall of Fame lefty Clayton Kershaw to the mound to attempt to work out of a bases-loaded situation, and he would do just that when Nathan Lucas chased what certainly would have been a go-ahead ball 4, instead dribbling a little grounder towards second base that Edman made a glove flip on, his 3rd potential game-saving play in the last 4 frames. Eric Lauer would come out for the Blue Jays in the 12th, beginning a hero's journey that wouldn't end until much later, along the way bending multiple times but not breaking, first by inducing a pop-up with the winning run at third base in the 13th, then after an intentional walk of Shohei and Mookie Betts, a fly out to the warning track from Freddie Freeman. After a 2nd consecutive scoreless frame from Eduardo Enriquez, he then got back on the hill and immediately gave up a long fly ball to Will Smith to left center field, one that looked like, for a split second, it was going to end the contest, but Varsho managed to make the play probably 5 feet or so from danger. Then with a couple guys on and Miguel Rojas at the plate, Ernie Clement would help out as well, making a nice play to end the frame on an intentional one-hop bounce to first base. This is where our 2nd big bullpen hero of the night, Will Klein, would enter the contest, a pitcher with a career ERA of 5.16 through 22 games, essentially being on this roster for mop-up situations, a role that you wouldn't have been able to identify based on his performance in this one, as he came out and proceeded to throw 4 consecutive innings of scoreless baseball, striking out 5 hitters along the way while giving up just a single hit. At the same time, Lauer would complete 4 2/3 of his own, while adding 1 more intentional walk of Shohei. Trust me, I'll get to why that's important in a second. The veteran lefty would finally depart in the 17th, giving way to Brendan Little, a guy who had already blown one game this postseason. But to his credit, he would pitch a scoreless 17th, while having the dubious honor of walking Ohtani intentionally, for the 4th time. This allowed the hitter to tie the all-time record for reaching base in a single game, outside of even postseason play, at 9, simultaneously setting the record for a World Series contest. After Klein pitched out of a jam in the 18th with a strikeout, getting Kike Hernandez insanely hyped up in the process, Little will be out there again, with starters Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shane Bieber warming up in their respective bullpens. But neither would have to throw even a single pitch, because on a 3-2 to postseason legend Freeman, he would get a sinker right down the middle and launch it over the head of a leaping Dalton in center field to end what might have been the greatest game in World Series history, one that featured so many records being broken I couldn't even hope to list them all, including on this very blast from Freddie, as he became the first player in World Series history with multiple walk-off homers in a career. This little tidbit was pointed out by Sarah Langs on Twitter, who I've cited many times on this channel and in this video, and I just wanted to take one last second here to emphasize just how great of a follow she is. What a fantastic overall contest, one that arguably in my opinion neither team deserved to lose, and one that will be remembered for the rest of the time humans play baseball at a professional level. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.